What's up, YouTube? In this video, I want to talk to you guys about trip planning. If this is your first time meeting me, my name's Jason Delgado. I usually make entertainment videos for the trucking industry. I'm a flatbed truck driver. I work with Melton Truck Lines, and this is my channel, Delgado Trucking. This video is the second video to basically how to maximize your money out here while you're on the road. My other video was time management. I'll put the link up there in the top right there. So yeah, definitely check that out if you haven't seen it. This one I'm going to be covering trip planning. So trip planning is important. I find that when I plan out my trips, things go a lot smoother. And I tend to arrive at my final on time. Hell, even sometimes I arrive early. So the number one thing you're going to want, I recommend everyone to get, is an atlas. You must have an atlas. It doesn't matter. I use my GPS right here. This is a Garmin OTR 800. So I use this all the time. I also use Trucker Path. I also use Google Maps. I use it all together. But everything falls back to the atlas. So I usually start as soon as I get my load information. I don't pay attention to my empty miles typically because Melton usually keeps me within 50, 100 miles to go pick up a load. And so I just shoot over there, and then I'll start doing my trip planning while they're loading me and whatnot. But what I typically do is, the first thing I'll do is I'll look at my loaded miles, right? Because you're only getting paid what it says for your loaded miles. So you could plug that into whatever medium you're using, whether that's Trucker Path, your Qualcomm, Google Maps, whatever. Let's say you plug the final address into that though, and your loaded miles are saying 1,000, but your address that you're coming up with is saying your trip is telling you it's like 1,500. Number one, anything over 10%, even after I've dwindled it down and took the shortest path, you want to talk to your DM about, because you shouldn't be running over 10% extra miles than what you're actually being paid for. So if you're running 1,000 miles, it shouldn't be over 1,100. Okay, I don't break out my atlas. The first thing I do is plug it into my Garmin, and I'll put the final in there, and I'll compare the miles that shoots out to the miles that I'm actually getting paid for. So if the miles that I'm actually getting paid for are lower by a lot, I'll go into my OTR, I'll go into my Garmin here, and I'll start searching for the U.S. roads, the state highways, stuff like that I can take. Because whatever navigation unit you guys are using, it's not always going to give you the best route. It's going to give you the most, I guess fastest is what it thinks. So it'll try to keep you on the interstates, straight from point A to point B. I found that if you actually dial into it, you can see, you can take some state roads, some U.S. highways, stuff like that, and it'll shed off time and miles from your overall trip. So that's what I typically do. Like I said, if the miles are close to what the paid miles are, I just leave it alone. But once I do that, this is where the atlas comes in. Okay, I'll take the state roads and the U.S. highways that I'm actually having to go on, and I'll compare it. I'll look in the front of my atlas, and I'll check for low bridges or overweight restrictions or anything like that. And obviously if I have a low bridge on my route, I'm going to have to change my route and go around it. But that's why it's necessary. It's an actual necessity to have an atlas. It doesn't matter whether you're using, even if you're using Google Maps. Now Google Maps I don't recommend because it's made for regular four-wheelers. They're not going to give you truck routes. Definitely you want to get yourself, once you guys save up some money or whatnot, if you're new into the industry, I would recommend getting yourself a nice trucker GPS unit. It just saves you some time. what it mainly does, one of the main benefits for it is I can actually see without going into like my atlas. Say I'm planning with my atlas, you know, hell yeah, I can try to measure out the line from point A to point B and get a rough estimate of the miles. But I can just simply go on my navigation unit, plug it in, and it'll tell me the exact miles. Like I said, it's all a comparison thing there. So when using your atlas, you know, I want to cut to the point here for you guys. You know, I respect your time. When using an atlas, though, one trick I found: most of the scales on the atlas are 1 inch equals about 150 miles. Well, it's universal that the from here to here at the top of your finger, that first segment is approximately 1 inch. So what I do typically, you know, to plan out my brakes and where I'm going to stop, you know, I like to stop at every 150 miles or 3 hours. I got to stop, do a load check, tire check. So that's one of these, right? So I can figure out what city I'm in and see if it's got any rest areas ahead of my route, and you know, I could plan my stops there. Also, 4 of these 1 inches on the map, you know, will tell me, it'll tell me where I should be stopping for the end of the day, which that's very helpful, because once I find out what city or area I'm going to be stopping at for the day, right, I can go back into, usually use Trucker Path, but I'll go into Trucker Path and I'll look at that city and find if I need to stop at a truck stop for the night, maybe to do some laundry, take a shower, or even fuel up or whatever. And I have talked, if you've watched my previous video, about you know, truck stops and stopping there with your time management and all that, so reference that. But I'm just using this as an example. I can basically find out where to shut down for the night, whether that's a rest area, a Walmart, a mom and pop truck stop, just somewhere to find to go to sleep. You can find rest areas on your map. If you look on the key, it has like a little blue shaded like house kind of thing. The shaded ones are the ones with the toilets, and the unshaded ones are the ones that aren't toilets. Now, this is the atlas that I use. You can pick these up at any truck stop. I recommend getting the ones that are laminated, because you can use a marker to, you know, mark your route. Also plan your stops for the evening, and plan your stops throughout the trip there. So that's gonna about do it. I'm gonna wrap this up. But yeah, just to touch on a key point with you guys, you know, I believe 100% in using technology to your advantage if you have the means to do so. So use a GPS unit, use your Google Maps, use whatever means makes it easy for you to plot your trip. But don't leave this out of the equation, because this is going to tell you where the low bridges are at and what kind of hazards you have on your route. Okay? So if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when my next videos are coming out. I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving, and I'm going to wrap it up here. I'll talk to you guys a little later. See you.